Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob?
I mean, it's something you might be like,
continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's so sensitive.
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really.
Right?
We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Savatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome back to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast. Can you guys believe it has been 1 month? 1 month. I feel like that's some sort of milestone I should celebrate. I know it may not seem like a big deal to you, but it's a huge deal to me because it has truly been a goal of mine for years. So this is fun. So I'm going to take a little moment and celebrate that because celebrating our achievements is a big deal. And again, I think back to my story, and I shared a little bit of this back in episode 1 about being the hot dog and not celebrating your achievements and stuff. And so I'm trying to break out of that. And so this is me trying to embrace that part of me that knows that I can celebrate cool stuff too. And so should you. So make sure you're doing that in your life. You know, if you've got something that you're excited about, find the right people to share those things with, because you shouldn't have to hide those things that you're excited about. But I am super pumped about today's episode because as a registered dietitian, this is probably something I see all the time, all the time. And it forces me to kind of break out of dietitian mode and into this inner child healing world. But I feel like there's so much that can unfold and happen for people when they stop focusing on weight loss and start focusing on their healing. And I can't tell you how many clients that I have worked with that when they finally got it, like, this isn't about weight loss. This is about healing. I'm like, yeah. And here's the cool thing is when you actually allow yourself to go on this healing journey, one of the cool side effects might actually be weight loss. But here is where your inner child could actually be blocking your weight loss. And this is what I see all the time. And it's heartbreaking. And I want to do this podcast specifically on this topic because how often I see it happening. And, you know, it wasn't that long ago that we had the whole New Year's resolution craze. And a lot of you know what happens. We tend to try to buckle down and, you know, go on these restrictive diets and plans, or I'm going to change this, or I'm going to take this out. And, oh man, those New Year's resolutions tend to trigger our inner child like no other. And that truly is why we sabotage. I know there is study after study after study on why people sabotage their New Year's resolutions. I've never seen mention of inner child on there, but I'm pretty sure that's why. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. And so if you resonate with this in any way, I don't know, you can like this podcast or comment or do something, whatever you do. If something resonates, do that. I would appreciate it. Or if you can comment, like, I would love to hear your comments and your experiences on this topic, because I think it's something so many of us have dealt with. And for some of you who have been struggling with weight for probably what feels like your whole life, like, this might be the key. This might be the missing puzzle piece. It certainly was for me. And so I want to share this little nugget on why I think it's your inner child who's blocking your weight loss. Because I can't tell you how many people will tell me what they're eating, and it looks pretty great. I might be able to tweak a couple things here and there, like, okay, let's make sure we're having protein at this snack, or maybe we'll throw in, you know, something here to help bridge this gap. I can do that. Like, I can put on my dietitian hat and do that. No problem. And you can maybe start exercising. You can be drinking water. You can be doing all the things on paper. And it's like, why the, you know what, is the scale not moving? And all I can hear is your inner child saying, because you don't feel worthy yet. You don't love me for me yet. You feel like we need to lose weight in order for you to finally love us. And guess what? No, I'm not letting you pass go this time until you learn that lesson. And I have probably said this in every podcast episode so far, and I probably will continue to, is that you keep getting the test until you learn the lesson. The lesson is, how do I love myself unconditionally? Whether I'm 50 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight, how can I love myself unconditionally? That is what your inner child wants. And until you learn that lesson, they are not going to let you pass go, because losing weight can give you a false sense of love, right? We start feeling better and we start like buying new clothes. We start feeling like worthy of these things, which can be great. But if at your core, you still don't truly love you, you will eventually get that test again. Somehow you will sabotage yourself. You likely go back to old habits. And how many of you know this cycle where you have lost weight, you've been successful, and then you gain it back. But not only did you gain the weight back, you gained the weight back and then some. And now you want to try to go back to the thing that helped you lose weight, whatever program it was. Like, man, I lost 50 pounds on that. I'll just go back to do that thing. And then the second time or third time you try to do it, it doesn't work. Like, what the heck? This totally worked for me last time. That is your inner child saying, no. Last time you did this, you had this false sense of love for yourself. You felt worthy because you had lost weight. You didn't feel worthy just because you're you. Let's be clear here. And for some of you that are on this healing journey, your inner child doesn't have it anymore. I feel like you get to a certain point in your healing journey where your inner child is not going to let you go back. And that's when you start to come up against these blocks. It's like, why isn't this working? This always used to work. I'm doing the things. Everything on paper looks great. If it were a simple equation of calories in versus calories out, why would there be this problem? Because it's not about that. It's not that simple. So I know this story very well myself because it was one that I wrote and rewrote for many years, truly from high school until my mid-30s. The same freaking story. I would try something, a couple weeks in, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks in, let's be honest. It'd be like Monday through Friday, solid effort. Weekends, like, I'll start again on Monday. I can't even tell you how many times I said I'll start again on Monday. To the point where when I started to say that, I could almost hear parts of me laughing at myself. Like, okay, Tami, sure. We'll give it a good college try, right? And I did that for so many years. So many years. And I know so many of you listening, maybe you can relate or you're still on that cycle. Like, how do I break out of this cycle? How do I start feeling worthy? How do you start to love yourself unconditionally when your entire life you have felt like there are parts of you that are unlovable, parts of you that aren't worthy? How do you start that within yourself? And that is kind of $1 million question. And maybe I'll be able to answer that for you today. Maybe not, but I think that true answer is within you. But who really holds the answer is your inner child. Because what I have found is when you go into making these health changes, which is great, it can be great. It's an amazing way to reparent your child when you start taking care of yourself. But if you're doing it from a place of, I hate how I look in these clothes, I feel awful, like no one's attracted to me, and it's out of this self-hate and self-loathing and disgust, your inner child's not going to have it. And it will block those efforts. I don't care how good your plan looks on paper. That scale isn't going to budge. Or you step on the scale, and for some reason, the scale gets to determine your worthiness. I talk to so many people who are doing all of the right things. But when they step on the scale and it doesn't budge, it's like, ugh, what's the point? It's so frustrating. Why am I not losing weight? Imagine your inner child sitting right in front of you. Like, guess what? Your efforts still aren't good enough. You still can't follow through. You'll never be as good as so-and-so. That's all that they hear. But now it's coming from you. When really your inner child's like, hey, but I'm doing the things. I'm showing up. Yeah, but you're not losing weight, so you're not good enough. And that's why sometimes you see this block on this scale and it's not moving. It's because your inner child is going to sit there with its hands crossed like this. And now it's got your body on board too. It's like, we are not going to budge this thing until they start to learn this, that we need to love this version of us before we lose the weight. It's one of those things, like the weight that you really need to lose isn't actually the physical weight. It's all the weight that you've been carrying probably your entire life, the weight of everyone else's stresses and worries and the things you take on for everybody else. It's that kind of weight. It's the weight of the masks that we wear. It's the weight of the expectations that we carry. It's all of that shit. Sorry, I'm not. That we need to lose. You need to lose that stuff first in order to actually be able to lose the physical weight. As we carry so much burdens for everybody else. We take on everyone else's stress and we forget to take care of ourselves. And the other part that your inner child can get a little perturbed about is oftentimes when we're making these changes, again, when we're doing it out of a place where it feels more negative and it's out of self-hate and disgust, we oftentimes kind of punish ourselves. Like, well, I'm going to cut out all of my favorite things. Like, I'm not going to have any more desserts. I'm not going to have any more alcohol. I'm not going to have any more whatever it is, X, Y, and Z, you name it. It's your favorite thing, but I'm going to follow this plan so I can't have it. Again, imagine your inner child sitting right in front of you and saying, I'm sorry, you can't have your favorite toy. Not because you did anything bad, but you just can't have it. Like, does that make sense? Why would we do that? Why would we try to encourage a kid to reach for a goal but do it in a way where we're punishing them? That seems twisted to me. I don't know a parent who would actually do that, but yet we do it to ourselves all the time. It is not motivating. And that is oftentimes why we self-sabotage. Your inner child is like, F this. Like, why are you taking away all the things that are fun and joyful just to like reach this goal that actually doesn't help us feel worthy to begin with? And I heard this story from a couple. They were going to go on this health journey together, which is great, right? They can motivate each other and keep each other accountable. But you also have to be very, very, very careful about that. Because again, we don't understand how we trigger one another. So some person might be like, hey, I thought you were going to the gym today. Oh, that actually reminds me. That happened to me once when I was very food focused and body dysmorphia was at an all-time high. Someone had said to me, well, didn't you just eat? Because we had lunch and I was thinking about dinner. I was planning ahead. So I told myself, not necessarily in a food obsessed way, but I was planning ahead because again, I'm always thinking of food. I always want to know when that next meal is coming. Again, childhood stuff. But that comment, very innocent of, well, didn't you just eat? What my parts and ego heard, are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob, fill in the blank? That's what I heard. I did not hear the innocent, very factual comment of, well, didn't you just eat? Because yes, I did. I just had lunch. So it didn't make sense to this person of why I would already be thinking about supper. But this person also had no idea what my relationship with food was. So I took that one very innocent comment and beat myself up like you would not believe. So you have to be really, really careful when you are embarking on a health journey with someone, especially a partner, because unless you know how to truly motivate them, because some people maybe need that like incentive out there, but I certainly don't feel like punishment is the way to go. And so anyway, back to this story. This couple was going to go on this health journey, and there was one thing the husband loved. Like this was the one thing he was involved in that lit him up like a Christmas tree, that he loved, he looked forward to, he planned. Truly, he was his most authentic self in this environment. But that was the thing. Hey, if we don't reach these goals, if you don't show up and do these things every day, you can't do that anymore. And I was like, ooh. Can I chime in on this? I think that's a terrible idea. Please don't do that. Please don't do that, because I could see the inner child just flipping the bird. Like, really? We're going to take away the one thing where I truly get to be who I am, the one time I'm not wearing a mask? And this person already was suffering from not feeling worthy enough, not being able to show up in the way that they wanted to in other aspects of their life. And it's like, no, this needs to be the model of, we want to embody more of this energy, but it was like this punishment thing. And we do that so often to ourselves. Again, whether it's taking away the favorite things, not allowing ourselves to go out and hang out with our friends because it's like, nope, I can only do X, Y, and Z. And it puts all of these rules and parameters around you. And again, you have to think of it from an inner child perspective. What kid wants to be told what to do? Like, I am absolutely this way. And that's why I couldn't follow a meal plan to save my life. I could create them all day long, but you tell me to follow one? No. My inner rebel was like, oh, hell no, you're not telling me what to do. And I would push against it, even though my rational, logical self knew that, hey, follow these things and you might lose weight, you might feel better. But again, I had to learn that same lesson, that I didn't love myself yet enough to even be able to follow that. And we have these parts of us that are going to push against that all the time until we learn those lessons. And so you have to think about your energy around the goals that you're making. Is it because you truly feel worthy of feeling good? Like, that's where it has to start. Because you love yourself enough to take care of yourself. Just like you would your kids. This is what always blows my mind. As a parent, myself, I have 2 kids. I don't go anywhere with them without water for them, without 18 different versions of snacks. Like, or even when they were babies, like, you had that diaper bag full. Like, no matter what situation you were in, what scenario, you were planned for it. You had books and toys and all of the shiny, whistly things. You had so many different snacks. We planned for our kids like no other. But when it comes to ourselves, we're out the door like, oh, shoot, I didn't bring your water. Oh, shoot, I didn't. And again, your inner child just feels completely neglected, completely abandoned by you. But yet it sees you do all that stuff for your kids and plan all those other things for everyone else, but not doing it for ourselves. So you have to start to feel worthy of putting in that kind of time and energy for yourself. Because it's basically like you're going to a party. Again, think of your 5-year-old self. Everyone else gets a gift except you. And this is for you overgivers out there. You know who you are. When you give and give and give to everybody else, but you have a hard time pouring into yourself and taking care of yourself, that's what it feels like, is your inner child is at this party. Everyone else gets this cool, awesome gift except for you. How does that feel? You probably feel left out. You probably have questions. Why don't I get one? Why am I not worthy of this? And then there's probably some sadness and frustration. And then eventually your inner child throws a tantrum. That's kind of what happens when you withhold all of these things from yourself. And I'm not talking about withholding the fun foods. I'm talking about love for yourself. Being able to show up for yourself. Allowing yourself to feel your feelings and your emotions. Because when you don't feel your feelings, that feels like abandonment too. And so that's what this really is about. This isn't about calories. And that's why I just, like, the thought of counting calories anymore is because again, like, it, yes, there is a time in your journey where that you can come back to that and it can be helpful. But until you have learned that lesson of, I need to love this version of me and truly appreciate everything that she's been through. And I think of myself that way. And I encourage you guys, the listeners, to go through your journey and think of certain aspects of your story. You know, I talk about, you know, my inner child, or like my high school self or my college self and things like that, because there are different parts of my life where, like, I need to go back and love her because I was not kind to her. And the stuff that she had to go through for us to get here, like, I have nothing but love and compassion for that version of me. Again, I think back to when I was in college as an exercise sports science major. I mentioned this in the first episode of being 40 pounds overweight as an exercise sports science major and feeling like a complete fraud. The fact that she showed up and completed that degree and still went back to the gym and now has this, like, cool, awesome community in this gym. Like, it's this full circle moment, but I wouldn't have been able to do that if she wouldn't have kept showing up. So I have nothing but love and compassion for the experiences that she went through. I have no more shame about the fact that I ate entire pizzas in my car. Like, I can feel that pain with her and thought, wow, she must have been a lot of pain to go through that, but thank goodness she kept going. And so releasing the guilt and shame around your story and the fact that you put this weight back on. Love yourself through that. Know that you were probably just trying to survive and cope. And sometimes we are in survival mode and we don't even realize it because survival mode just feels like our everyday life. We're just surviving through it. And so, yeah, you're doing things to cope and get through it that maybe aren't helping you reach your goals. So it's coming back to this sense of loving yourself through this, understanding your parts of the story. And that's what I love doing with people, is hearing your story and helping you see how this all happened for you, and that, oh my gosh, there was a lesson in that, and there was a lesson in this one, and a lesson in that story, but we just missed it. Maybe we didn't fully pass the test, but the test is here for you now. Are you actually going to learn the lesson this time? And if you keep coming up on roadblocks with your weight loss, your inner child is asking you to go deeper and saying, like, this isn't about the food. It's not. This isn't about your lack of willpower. It's not a lack of knowledge. That. Stop trying to tell yourself that to avoid having to go deeper. If you are at that place where you feel stuck, nothing seems to work, that is your inner child begging for your attention, finally, to do this work on a deeper level. But it has to start with that acknowledgement. And you have to be open and willing. You don't know where it's going to take you. But if it means not staying stuck, sign me up, because that feels worse, right? Just going through the motions of your everyday life. And what I find too is so often we get to this place where how we feel every day just feels like normal. Like, this is just what I'm used to. I have a woman that I know well for many years, has had like these digestive issues for like 30 years, but doesn't want to do anything about it because it just feels normal. That's just how it is. No. Why? And again, when you think about, let's go deeper and find out like what suppressed emotions and things are stirring in your gut and begging for your attention. Your body is begging for your attention. And it's not always that we have, some major health crisis that's a cry for help. Sometimes it is that slow waking. And then it finally gets your attention, like, whoa, how did I get here? Yeah, because you abandoned yourself for the last how many years? That's how you got here. And so part of this journey, and you, again, need to be open and willing to stop putting Band-Aids on it with another diet or another program or whatever it is, and actually take the Band-Aid off and look at the wound and start healing those wounds of unworthiness or whatever it is for you, so you can start to heal. And then you can bring in the nutrition, you can bring in the workouts. And now it feels like it's truly coming from this place of knowing you deserve to feel good, knowing you deserve the same time and energy and love that you pour into everybody else. And now your inner child gets that same gift that everyone else got at the party. Inner child doesn't feel left out. Because there is nothing worse than a kid who feels left out. It is heartbreaking. But we do it to our inner child every single day, especially when it comes to stuff like this. So starting to think about that on your journey, starting to connect those dots. And some of the women that I work with, and I love these stories, and it comes up all the time, where I had this woman share the story. Like, again, she was going on this, feeling motivated again. She's going to get back to it. She knows what she's going to do, and she's starting to do all the things. And again, it's so classic. And she said, I'm doing everything really well. I even cut out my favorite coffee in the morning. And here's the thing, her favorite coffee, it wasn't really about the coffee, because she would drink it on her way to school. She was a teacher, and she would turn off her car before she went into school, and she would sit there in silence and enjoy this coffee. It wasn't about the coffee. It was about this one peaceful moment that she actually had to herself. Because when she was home, she was taking care of kids. When she was at her job, she was taking care of kids. When she got home from her job, she's taking care of kids. It was just nonstop. And so this one moment that she was giving herself that just felt like pure peace and joy, she took it away. She took it away because it had sugar in it. And this new plan, it has too much sugar. I can't do it. And her inner child's like, no, that was the one moment I had with you. That was the one moment where we got quiet and we were just you and me. Your inner child wants that quality time. So she didn't just take away the sugar. She took away the one time of her day that she actually was showing up for herself and showing herself love. So I told her, no, you bring that coffee back and you enjoy the hell out of it. You stay in that car as long as you need to. You enjoy that coffee. It isn't about the sugar. That is not why the scale isn't moving. The scale isn't moving because you just took away this magical thing from your inner child. Well, then we got digging even further, and it turns out that she wasn't fully loving herself at this place yet. There was still a lot of guilt and shame that she had regained some of this weight because she knows better, right? So she just beat herself up about it. I'm like, no. There were lessons that you needed to gather along the way. There were things that you needed to move through to get to this place. But what we found out was that when she was in 6th grade, her dad had made a comment about her weight. And in that moment, she didn't feel good enough. So now this woman in her mid-40s, not feeling good enough at her current weight, scale isn't budging. She's doing all the things. She cut out all the sugar, all the stuff. Scale's still not moving. It wasn't until we made that connection back to her 6th grade self, like, what would you have told that little girl in that moment? Because whatever you would have told her is exactly what you need to tell yourself now. And until you learn to love this version of you and everything that she has been through, that 6th grade self is going to be like, nope, you can try all you want. I'm not budging. Not until you learn to love me like I deserved to be loved back then. I deserved to be loved unconditionally, no matter what I was wearing, no matter how much I weighed, I still was worthy of love. And until you love me and you at this weight now, not happening. And that was like this major aha this woman had. Like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm doing. And oh my gosh, I would never want to do that to my younger self. I would never do that to my own kids. Why am I doing that to myself? That's a great question. Well, it's because of our wounds, right? But now that you know better, you can do better. And so I will never forget the message I got the next day where she's in her car, with her coffee, back in that awesome, happy, peaceful energy again. And it was like, yes, this is the energy we move in. This is the energy that is going to help start to shift that scale and see that number go down. But here's the thing. Your inner child does not want to base your worthiness on the number on the scale. And if you keep stepping on there, am I worthy yet today? Am I worthy or not? I encourage you to just set it aside. If you're doing all the things on paper, why do you need the scale to validate that for you? You don't. You think you do, but you don't. That is, again, telling your inner child and your body that you don't really trust them, that you don't really quite love them yet. And I get it. It's so hard. I was so many years obsessed with the scale. But the more you can just tune in, like, how do I feel? Do I feel like I have more energy? Am I sleeping better? Are my cravings reduced? Am I proud of myself for showing up? Then that's really all that matters. The weight loss will be the cherry on top. I promise you it'll be the cherry on top, but not if you try to control it. Because there is that little rebellious part of you too that's like, nope, not going to fly. And so I could go on and on and on about this topic. And so I'm sure there will be many more episodes related to this in some aspect. But thank you all for hanging out with me as long as you have. And I want you to know, like, this starts with you. And I know finding that worthiness isn't always the easiest thing, but that is truly what your inner child is begging you for. And the more you can tune into that and just start to think like, gosh, like, what did she need growing up? How could I make her feel loved no matter what? And you start to translate that into your life now as an adult, really cool things will start to change. And so, hey, and if you ever want to share your story on here, like, that'd be awesome. We can dive into story, connect some dots, and hopefully you have that aha moment too. Like, that's what this is all about, is helping people have these aha moments where they make that connection, because that is when your inner child is like, yes, that's what I've been trying to tell her for all these years, but she wasn't connecting the dots. So, oh my gosh, now we can work with this. Now we can do something with this. Now the things that triggered us in the past aren't going to trip us up anymore, and we can heal from this and move on with our life. Find joy in our life, have fun in our life again, and not let it always be about weight. So thank you for tuning in with me. I will see you guys on our next episode. In the meantime, you can head over to Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and follow me on there at Unscripted Healing, where I share lots of little stories, lots about my day-to-day life. And you get to see how I show up every single day, the things that I do, whether it comes to nutrition or my workouts or how I just have to pour into myself, because I'm doing this job and the work that I do, I'm pouring into people all the time. For a long time, I was doing that without pouring into myself. And that was a recipe for disaster. So I had to heal some massive wounds in order to be able to show up for myself in that way. But I tried to show that process through my daily life, just to show that it's possible. But you're going to need to allow yourself to move through the emotions and to feel the feels and know that there's going to be days where you don't want to get out of bed and you don't want to do the things. But your inner child still needs you on those days. And that's kind of what I try to show on those other avenues. So follow me there if you want to stay connected in between these episodes. But I can't wait to see you back until next time.
Tami Talks Unscripted Healing is produced by Mortarbox Media. Video, audio, and editing by me, Duke Adams. To learn how we can bring your podcast idea to life or how we can make your current show even better, visit mortarboxmedia.com.